I didn't know they were gonna play that video. I sounded so gay. It's actually really funny because I like, when I'm pretending to extrapolate deep leftist truths on my show or when I speak, I'm always like, I do this kind of weird gay homo lefty voice. I don't know, because it's funny to mock stupid ideas. And I think you have to be careful as a Christian not to start mocking people. You know what I'm saying? That's easy for me to do, to start attacking the ideology and then I'm making fun of the person. But there is sometimes precedent for that in the Bible. And so in an age of stupidity, we actually need a prophetic church who's sometimes willing to just point out that the transgender emperor has no clothes because everyone else is thinking it. I have you heard of this group called Right Wing Watch? So they watch the podcasts and talks of conservative speakers, and then they cut out these clips and they put them on their platform. They're Christian nationalist pastor John Amanchukwu says, or Christian nationalist Rob McCoy, or I don't even know what that is necessarily. I'm a Christian and I think the priorities of my nation to come before other ones because I love my backyard and my neighborhood because it's where I live. So by extension, I care about the county that my city's in because it's where my house is in. It's where my children sleep. So by extension, I care about the laws in the state that I live in because my county's in my state and my city's in my county and my home is in my neighborhood and my kids are in my house. So I'm a Christian nationalist. I don't really know what these things mean anymore, but it's you're a Christian nationalist. I'm well, it's better than secular globalism. And guess what? You only have two options. I don't know if you know this about the culture wars, church, but guess what? Dominion is inevitable. Do you understand this now? This whole I'm apolitical. I'm Rick Warren, purpose-driven life. By the way, when my wife and I run out of toilet paper in our home, we just grab the old purpose-driven life books. And I'm apolitical. I'm neither left nor right. Because Jesus is not of this world, and we're desired to bring people to the kingdom, which is not of this world. So I don't care about this whole political thing. I'm just going to tell people that Jesus loves them. And it's you know what you actually do? You're prostituting your Genesis 1-3 cultural mandate to people who hate God and will be far more passionate and zealous to fulfill their weird, inverted, upside-down leftist version of the cultural mandate for wickedness than we have been for pure and undefiled religion and for righteousness. You're not going to have sorry, but I hate the libertarians. You're not going to, let me just keep my guns, but you do whatever you want. Don't chop the genitals off of my children. But let's let other people make their decisions. No. We are going to live under a theocracy. Either way, it's either just going to be informed by a Christian worldview that informs our laws, or it's going to be informed by paganism. And guess what? Usually just a lot of people get slaughtered when paganism informs the worldview of the republic. So I was going somewhere with that. Oh yeah, so we're all thinking it. We just need the church to wake back up and we need some Christian nationalism. I want Christian nationalism like Hunter Biden wants Coke. We need Christian nationalism. And so Right Wing Watch cuts this clip of me the other day. And I was saying one of the reasons we know abortion is satanic is because many of its most vociferous and loud apologists are fat and ugly. And so they cut this thing. And in the clip, because it's actually a biblical thing, that you take the image of the thing that you worship. That's a biblical concept. Those who worship idols are like them. That's what the Old Testament says. So you actually begin to take the image of the thing you worship. So do you think so you thought that was super, Pastor Sam, get this guy off. That was such a rude joke. That wasn't very winsome. I don't like this Christianity. It's no, that's biblical. You'll take the image of the thing you worship. What's more ugly than slaughtering babies, ripping their arms off, harvesting their organs, and selling it to the highest bidder? Why are we shocked that the people who are woo, I need abortion, are ugly? Anyway, I didn't intend to open with that. I meant to say something else, but we're all thinking it. We're all thinking it. That's why Nolene was like, you can spot those feminazis from a mile off. They're not very pretty. But it's a spiritual phenomenon is what I was trying to say. So all human conflict is ultimately theological. So Leonard Ravenhill said the reason we have so many pygmies in our pews is because we have so many puppets in our pulpits. And if you haven't read my friend Megan Basham's book yet, Shepherds for Sale, How Evangelical Ministers Traded the Truth for a Leftist Agenda, she became like a New York Times bestseller in like 8 days or something. And everyone at the Gospel Coalition and everyone at Christianity Today, and everyone's like, don't read her book! Because it's like showing how so much of evangelicalism, they become little puppets for the leftist establishment who will sometimes literally cut them checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars so that they'll sprinkle a little bit of Christianese onto their paganism and masquerade as Christian. So you need to go read the book. That's what Leonard Ravenhill was getting at. But I just want to say, isn't it awesome to have a pastor and a leadership team here who aren't puppets? Give Pastor Sam and Michelle a round of applause. By the way, Pastor Sam asked me to say that. He even gave me the Leonard Ravenhill quote. He's like, hey, no. I wanted to say that from my heart. So it's so good to be with you guys. So, the year after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, so 2022 is when Roe gets overturned, so 2023. You know over 1 million babies were murdered in America in 2023? But did you know what the numbers were in 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011? 750 to 900,000. The second you take away the appearance of a federal right to child killing, Americans apparently just got a lot more bloodthirsty. It really is like an idol. And to many Christians, too, they're pro-choice Christians, which I don't really know what that means. But and because of the overturning of Roe versus Wade, well, I mean, you're Josh Shapiro. Is that who you? What an idiot your governor is. You know, like right after Roe got overturned, and that wasn't very winsome. He starts this website for abortion access, for this big, just like a golden statue with arms like this, just to assure Pennsylvania residents that don't worry, you'll still be able to kill your children, and here's everything you need to know on how to do it, and here's what we're doing to protect medication abortion. In 2023, the 1 million babies that were killed, 630,000 of them had their bodies flushed down the American sewage system. 63% of those 1 million abortions were not surgical abortions. It's called the abortion pill. Have you heard of it? You can thank Bill Clinton for bringing it to America in the year 2000. It's called RU-486 is the technical name. You might hear medication abortion or abortion pill. What they're referring to is RU-486. RU stands for Roussel-Uclof. Roussel-Uclof is a French pharmaceutical company that created the abortion pill years ago, and anyways, it's a whole weird dark money thing, and it comes to America, and Clinton legalizes it. It's a mess. But Roussel-Uclof's majority shareholder of the manufacturer and creator of the abortion pill is Hoechst AG. Hoechst AG was a German chemical company who in 1916, which is interesting, that's the same year that Margaret Sanger opened the first Planned Parenthood clinic in the Brownsville neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York, an area heavily populated by blacks, Jews, Slavs, Italians, and other people that she defined as unfit to reproduce and unfit to live. And she had a line of 150 immigrants around the block before the police came and shut down. This was right after she came back from England from being the first Kamala Harris and sleeping her way up the levers of power when she jumped into bed with H.G. Wells and the Alfred Kinsey of England named Havelock Ellis, who hosted orgies in his homes and made his wife watch him and drove his wife insane, who was having an affair with Margaret Sanger before she came back to Greenwich Village in New York City in 1916 to launch the first Planned Parenthood clinic. I wrote a book and a movie called The 1916 Project about the history of all that. Anyway, same year, a lot of ish happened in 1916. Hoechst AG, this German chemical company, co-founded another German chemical company named IG Farben. IG Farben later became infamous for the creation of a cyanide gas known as Zyklon B. The gas used to poison Jews in Nazi death camps. So Hook's AG simply shifted from creating poison to murder Nazi undesirables to creating poison to murder babies. That same pill killed 630,000 children in 2023 and more in 2024, and they were flushed down your toilets in America. So now we're finding aborted fetal remains in the water we drink in America. Loved listening to Pastor Rob and Ross, and I think God is moving in America. But we've been asking him to move for a long time. Is it any surprise that it feels like the heavens have been shut? Every 12 months, 1 million children. Every 12 months, 1 million more babies. I've had the honor of speaking in probably more churches on the issue of life in the last 4 years than anyone else in the world that I'm aware of. And one of the most common responses from men and women like yourself, just normal Americans who love the Lord, trying to raise their kids well, is to look at this culture and go, what the heck is going on? I want to go back to the 90s when it was just Tony Hawk, Nintendo 64, and it seems like liberals and conservatives were friends, and it seems like we could have dinner together. And like there was a noticeable shift over the last few years where it just seemed like everything just like went, and like I think most of us have the tendency to be like, this is unprecedented. I've never seen this before. What do we do? And I think Nolene just hit the nail on the head. Read the Bible, study their cultures and their decisions, and stop being shocked. We have stood on the shoulders of giants in America for so flipping long that we think we're flying, and we think liberty and freedom are just gonna go on, just gonna go on in perpetuity. We're stupid. America turns 250 years old in like 11 months. What's the average lifespan of a civilization? According to most historians, 250 years. We are a young country. And we've forgotten how normal wickedness, evil, and darkness is. We live such comfortable lives in America that we forget that what we're seeing is not progressivism. What a stupid word. What we're seeing is regressivism. We are regressing back to what is not normal, but common. Not normal. It is not normal to kill your children. It is not normal to get on Pornhub every night while your wife is asleep. It is not normal to cut the genitals off of children. It is not normal to show pornography to a 10-year-old in a public high school because it's just sex ad. But those things are common. And they've been very common throughout the history of the world. We're seeing a renaissance of paganism and demonic principalities that masquerade as just the politics and follow the science to keep the politically impotent pastor silent. So, if the Bible covers everything, here's the story. You ever heard of this guy named Gideon? You know, people always say, like, the Bible doesn't address abortion. It's like one of the most retarded things I've ever heard. By the way, have you noticed since Trump got reelected, people are saying the word retarded again? I mean, you shouldn't call retarded people retarded. You should call leftist, baby-killing, gender-bending, sexualized to kids people retarded. Amen? Did I go too far at Freedom Life? Sorry. I just noticed that after Trump got elected, you're allowed to say things again that you weren't. I just think it's kind of culturally kind of interesting to talk about that. 15 minutes left. Okay. But the point is the Bible does address all this. In Judges 6, it's a great story to kind of like elucidate our times. They basically have Bernie Sanders' democratic socialism. And so the Midianites are, it's democratic, guys, it's much better. That's what I've heard. I've been told. It's like icing on a turd, or like, somehow it's better than regular socialism. But so the Midianites, it says, are oppressing the Israelites. And it says the Israelites thresh their wheat, they produce food, and the Midianites just come and take it. Democratic socialism. And then, so Gideon's a pansy, because this is before a mighty man of valor 300, the OG 300. And it says Gideon goes up into a wine press or a mountain cave to thresh his own wheat. In other words, I'm going to produce food up in the foothills where the Midianites can't find my food, and I'm going to keep it to myself and let my people be screwed down in the valley as they're being robbed by all the AOCs and Bernie Sanders. And then in Judges 6, it says the angel of the Lord appears to Gideon in like this wine press or threshing floor or cave. And he says, mighty man of valor. And when I read that, I was like, well, he's kind of a pansy, actually. But he's calling out his identity. He's reminding him who he is. And of course, like 2 chapters later, you're like, this guy's a baller, you know? Which, by the way, isn't that so encouraging? That's encouraging to me. Like, you can go from pansy to mighty man of valor in like 2 chapters. Like, that can happen to you, young man. Okay, anyways. Don't play the victim. And so he cooks God a meal. The angel of the Lord lights it on fire. And Gideon like freaks out. And then it says, and that same night, the angel of the Lord said to Gideon, walk out of this cave. And I'm reading this, I'm thinking, he's gonna go slay the Midianites, right? God's about to download a military strategy to just go theocratic Christian nationalism, right? And it's like, that's not what happens at all in Judges 6. It's fascinating. Why? Because judgment begins in the house of the Lord. He says, you know those Asherah poles? I want you to chop them up. And then you know those Baal statues? I want you to rip them down. Then I want you to put them in a big pile. And I want you to light it on fire. And I'm like, what happened to like libertarian, like utopian live and let live? Everyone's religion is welcome. Like God's like, you know what's a fragrant aroma to me? Tearing down the idols of secularism and burning them. I like the smell of the burning flesh of demons. It's very pleasing to me. The feminist, lesbian dance theory majors, rip it down, light it on fire. Says the Lord. You're like, wow, this is not very tolerant. By the way, that's because this guy Chesterton said tolerance is the virtue for people who don't believe in anything. By the way, we should all get better in our Christian walk of reading the writings of more dead people. Let them mentor you. We don't have very many people like that in the West today, like Chestertonian figures. Anyways, so Gideon walks out of this cave and he just goes and rips it all down. Now that's interesting, right? Asherah, goddess of sex. How would they worship Asherah? Ashtaroth, the Asherah poles. Orgies. Sexual liberation. If it feels good, do it. But what happens when you live that way? When you serve your libido? What happens when you live that way? Unbridled sexuality. Babies! Oh, right. Because consent to sex is consent to pregnancy. I was on a university campus a few years ago, and I think it was one of the turning point things. I do the table thing. I try to do it like Charlie. I'm not as cool, but and all the pink-haired feminazis come up and they're like, consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy. That's what this young woman told me. And I said, then consent to eating Krispy Kreme donuts for every meal for 5 years is not consent to obesity. Yeah, you were quick, sister. Everyone else in the room was a little slower. And she kind of looked at me like eyes glazed over, like kind of like a donut. And was just like, have you seen that meme where it's like the woman's doing math and it's all the like mathematical equations? Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah, it turns out when you do weird sex stuff all the time, and you're addicted to gratification, you get pregnant. Oh, but don't worry, that's why we have Baal. Do you think it's a coincidence that the 2 demonic gods in Judges 6 are weird sex cults and baby killing? Is that a coincidence? Those 2 sins have been linked since time immemorial. It's the same model today. Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in the world, one of the best funded 501c3s in human history, the second largest provider of cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and the largest provider of the pornographic comprehensive sexuality education filth that's created an organic grassroots movement of parents speaking at school board meetings because they're ticked off about all the filth that their children are being shown. Planned Parenthood, what one organization is the largest abortion provider in the world, nearly the largest provider of chemically castrating drugs for minors, and in a sort of demonic trinity, the largest provider of porn sex ed. It's called CSE, Comprehensive Sexuality Education, in America's public schools. Oh, what a coincidence! The largest baby killing organization is also the largest provider of porn in the classroom? As it was in Judges 6, so it is today. This is a renaissance of paganism. I like to read really weird books and find forgotten truths that previous generations used to know about political culture wars. And I stumbled across this thing the other day. I have it in my book, The 1916 Project. The subtitle is The Lying, the Witch, and the War We're In. I thought that was gonna kill in homeschool Amish land, but I was homeschooled too, it's okay. By the way, isn't it funny that because I was homeschooled in the early 2000s, late 90s, and remember the whole stereotype of homeschool kids are weird? You know, it had a little sliver of truth to it. And now it's homeschool kids are cool and hip and smart and not socially awkward. And it's the feminazis, 5-color hair, the people Nolene were, they're you're weird. It's totally flipped. And the homeschooling population has I think quadrupled in America since 2020. Absolutely beautiful, by the way. It's like Vodi Bakum says, if you send your children to Caesar, don't complain when they come back as Romans. So Roe versus Wade was just decided. January 22nd, 1973, women's rights to kill their children through all 9 months of pregnancy in all 50 states. That day, on the steps of the Supreme Court, a journalist walked up to the president of Planned Parenthood, Alan Guttmacher, because Sanger had died a few years previously. He's the namesake of the Guttmacher Institute, Planned Parenthood Statistical Research Branch. And this reporter said, Dr. Guttmacher, congratulations, abortion rights. How are you going to safeguard? How are you going to protect? How are you going to shore up this amazing decision to make sure that those Christian nationalists don't overturn it at some point in the future? How are you going to protect Roe v. Wade forever? What was the answer of the president of Planned Parenthood to that question? Sex ed. No, I'm not kidding. The Washington Star on May 3rd, 1973, he was asked this question again. He said, the answer to winning the battle for elective abortion once and for all is sex education. What are they telling you? We're gonna sexualize the next generation. And once they serve their libido and are addicted to gratification, they will be very easy to control. And by the way, they're gonna end up needing the Baal services eventually. Asherah and Baal have been linked since time immemorial. Those are the two demonic gods of the culture of death and our culture war today in the West and certainly in America. Planned Parenthood would go on, by the way, to institutionalize comprehensive sexuality education. Their medical director, Mary Calderon, left Planned Parenthood, founded SECUS, the Sexuality Information Education Council of the United States. By the way, guess who gave the seed money to found SECUS, who was the pioneer of the filth in the schools? Hugh Hefner provided the seed money to launch SECUS. One of its first board members was Wardell Pomeroy, one of the many men that Alfred Kinsey was having gay sex with. One of the many men. Alfred Kinsey, he was called the father of the sexual revolution. So that's where all that comes from. All the stuff in the schools you've been fighting? That was architected and pioneered by Planned Parenthood and their prognosticators and culture warriors at the beginning of the 20th century. So Gideon's thinking, wow, we're gonna start there. I thought we were just gonna kill the Midianites. God chose to deal with the Israelites' abortions before dealing with anything else. God, you're going to rescue us, right? No, we're going to deal with the root cause. Because I told you to stop killing my babies. Time and time again, I said, the Lord said, it didn't even enter my mind that you would do this. Pass your children through the fire. I told you that I was bringing the Savior of the world through your lineage. Stop killing my babies. Rip it all down. And then we'll talk. Listen, I'm a conservative in every sense. So I believe we should shut the border. I believe we should build a wall. I believe that the debt that we're putting on Gen Z is not just outrageous, it's an injustice. I believe that anyone here illegally should go be sent back to their original country. Listen, I get all of that. I'm on board with all of it. It makes total sense to any person who has two brain cells to rub together. What I'm trying to say is that none of that will matter if we continue to slaughter children in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Any other thing we conserve temporarily will soon be lost in not very long if we continue to tolerate the two things that in Judges 6, God says, you're going to deal with that first. So praise God that the American church has the spirit of Gideon today, right? No, that doesn't really represent the spirit of the American church. There are exceptions, Pastor Rob, Pastor Sam, many of the warrior churches that partner with my ministry, the White Rose Resistance. No, by and large, we have the spirit of Lot in the American church. Do you remember Lot? He was a Christian influencer of his day. He had the blue verified check mark on Twitter way before Elon Musk bought it. He was invited to all the right parties. He was with Rick Warren every time Klaus Schwab issued that invitation to Davos on the private jet to go to the World Economic Forum. He had all the right friends. Where's Lot positioned when the angels come to towards Seattle? Sodom and Gomorrah. Where's Lot positioned? At the city gates. That's a person of influence. And the angels come and he takes him to his house, and it says in Genesis, men from all parts of the city came to Lot's house. So that means every part of culture is descending down onto the one man whose family is called righteous. Does that feel like America today? It feels like every part of the culture is descending. Just ask the Cedras, goodness gracious. By the way, they're prophetic warnings. They're here to tell you what America will look like in 15 years if the church doesn't wake up. And what do they say? Lot, bring those men out so we can have gay sex on the sidewalk. Sorry, I'm just we have to speak very clearly about what's actually happening there. And Lot walks out onto his front porch, and the first thing he says is, depending on the version of the Bible, he says, brothers and sisters, hi! Or some versions say, he says, my dear friends. Now, I don't know about you, can I speak truthfully? Okay, I will. I generally try not to refer to people who want to bang angels on the sidewalk as my brothers and my sisters. That's a personal thing for me. Something about salt water, fresh water, same spring, fruit tree, something like that. I just think the people who want to have gay sex with angels on the sidewalk, I think that they're probably not my brothers and my sisters. They're not your brothers and sisters, Lot. Stop trying to get crumbs from the table of secular liberalism so you can keep your 501c3 status. And be invited to Davos every year. By the way, there's a reason why Rick Warren was invited to Davos every year and Pastor Jack Hibbs is not. Just like there's a reason why David French has a weekly op-ed in the New York Times and Eric Metaxas does not. Just like Russell Moore, the editor-in-chief of Christianity Yesterday, is MSNBC's Phone a Christian, and Vodi Bakum is not. It's the idol of cultural respectability. Brothers and sisters. Now, I'm not calling for overt, targeted nastiness towards the unrepentant. The Bible says such were some of you. What I'm saying is here's a dude, Lot, who can't even differentiate anymore. between who are his brothers and sisters and who are not. So how will that archetype of a leader know to whom to preach this gospel of salvation in the first place? I think it was Spurgeon who said, if you continue to wear glasses that distort, everything will be distorted to you. But let's give Lot a little credit, okay? I'm being pretty harsh, huh? The next thing he says is, do not do this wicked and abominable thing. So he flicks a little truth bomb out there. He calls their actions wicked. He's not saying let's put up a rainbow flag. He's willing to speak just as much truth as the spirit of the age allows him to. I'm one of those Protestants that sometimes reads Catholics writers. Fulton Sheen once said, if you wed yourself to the spirit of the age, you'll find yourself a widow in the next. Wow. Yeah. That stings. We got a lot of Christian music artists, influencers, podcasters, and pastors and authors who are willing to actually sometimes condemn a wicked culture and call their actions wicked, but never enough to be a threat. And how do I know that Lot is the archetype for the evangelical church today? How can I prove that? Because that's maybe you say Seth, you're speaking where the Bible doesn't speak. You've taken it too far. Okay, the very next statement out of Lot's mouth, after brothers and sisters, but don't do that. I've got some daughters in the living room. You can rape them instead. Wow. This is a righteous man. When the culture of death came to the front door of the righteous, insisting that we cooperate in that wickedness, the one righteous man folds like a cheap suit and hands over the next generation on a silver platter to the demonically inspired sodomites and baby killers and says, here, have your way with them because I really want to go to Davos again next year. Don't forget me to, brothers and sisters, don't forget to invite me to your party. And so his wife becomes in death what he should have been in life. A pillar of salt. What's salt supposed to do? Preserve, conserve the things that matter. Can I tell you, as a weird homeschool kid, I just feel like when I look at the Bible, I feel like when God's the most ticked off, it's when children are being murdered. Or when weird sex, Alfred Kinsey diddle the kid stuff is happening. That's when he's the most angry! I've got some daughters in the living room. We are currently in the process of handing over the next generation on a silver platter so we can remain relevant, be liked, sell our books, and not shrink our congregation in half because we don't have enough testicular fortitude to preach truth into a culture of death. So I'll close with this. I'm sorry, I did too many jokes opening this thing. We can tolerate evil for a while and still enjoy the blessings of liberty, but there will come a day when the mob also comes to the front door of the righteous. And then maybe you're like, oh, maybe I should have spoke up 30 years ago. Because back then, when Pastor Rob was telling me to speak up, I could continue my way of life and comfort without actually being personally affected by the evil out there. But there will come a day And then we're going to have to decide whether to stand. You know, Chesterton said that the true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him. As if to say, you will not touch those behind me. But we don't have the spirit of Lot in the American church. This is a biblical concept, tolerating, and then everything goes to hell. And I'll finish with this. Do you remember the good kings in 1st and 2nd Kings? There's a very short list. And you know what it says of each of these men? It says they did what was right in the sight of the Lord. Asa was a good king who ruled over the kingdom of Judah for 41 years. It says he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. By the way, isn't that a great epitaph? Don't you want that on your tombstone? She did what was right in the sight of the Lord. Asa's son Jehoshaphat, he was a good king. He reigned in Jerusalem for 25 years. Guess what it says? Doing what was right in the sight of the Lord. Oh, and then there's Jehoash. He was a good and moral king. He reigned in Jerusalem for 40 years. Guess what it says? He did what was right in the sight of the Lord. And then there's Amaziah. He was a good and moral king for 29 years in Jerusalem. It says, what's this? He did what was right in the sight of the Lord. You know, it's not a coincidence when God repeats the same words. Okay, we should observe that pattern. Go, I wonder why he's saying that. Azariah, the son of Amaziah, reigned 52 years. It says he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. And then there was Jotham. He reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and it says he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. Do you want to know what the final line, the final sentence is? It comes right after the phrase, he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. Of these good, it says, except the high places were not taken away. If you're a new believer, the high places in the Old Testament referred to actual physically erected high places where they would worship Asherah through orgies and murder babies. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord. He was a good preacher. He discipled his people to live upright lives, but they were slaughtering 1,000 children every 2 months in the same city, but he preached the word. And God's saying, the way I want you to remember, what is this? It's not very many. Jotham, Azariah, Amaziah, Jehoash, Jehoshaphat, and Asa. 6 kings. The way I want you to remember them is they let the slaughter of babies and the diddling of children stand because they were too busy doing more spiritual things. What a horrible epitaph to have. Can you imagine your children remembering you at your funeral? How will we remember the woke, cowardly, silent, and progressive Christians in 50 years? Except the high places. So I guess my point is this. Each of these kings failed to serve their society as prophets and priests, guiding and guarding the land. It was the silent tolerance. It was the silent tolerance of God's good kings that brought about the eventual destruction of Jerusalem. Perhaps this is why G.K. Chesterton famously said, we are perpetually being told that what is wanted is strong men who will just do things. But what is really wanted is strong men who will undo things. For that will be the real test of strength.